Mira Solon stood in the docking bay of Station Aegis, her heart pounding. The space station floated on the edge of the galaxy, its silver walls shining against a sea of stars. Around her, tall alien diplomats moved with purpose, their faces cold and unreadable. This was the heart of the Galactic Council, the rulers of almost all known worlds, and Mira, a 29-year-old ambassador in training, had come here with a mission so big it almost crushed her: save Earth from itself. Long ago, humans had been part of the Galactic Council. They were young, wild, and full of dreams, but their hunger for war had broken the Council's trust. After bloody battles and broken promises, Earth had been cast out. Now, centuries later, humanity was a shadow of its former self. Wars had left the planet dying, resources were gone, hope was fading, and so Earth had sent Mira their best chance to ask the Council for forgiveness. Mira clutched the small silver badge pinned to her jacket, the symbol of Earth's last hope. She took a deep breath and walked down the long glass corridor toward the Council chamber. Inside, the chamber was massive. Rows of floating seats circled a glowing blue podium. Each seat held a leader from a different world. Some were tall and feathered, others had scales or fur. Mira felt all their eyes on her as she stepped forward. The Council's chief, a thin being named Soren, raised a hand. His voice echoed across the hall. "Earth petitions for re-entry into the Galactic Council," he said. His tone was flat, almost bored. "Speak, human." Mira cleared her throat. Her voice shook at first but grew stronger as she spoke. "Honorable Council, I come on behalf of a changed Earth. We know our past is full of mistakes. We know we brought war where there should have been peace. But we have changed. We are ready to join the family of worlds once more, to build instead of destroy." A low murmur rose among the Council members. Mira could see their doubt, their anger. Some shook their heads. Others whispered behind long fingers or tentacles. From the corner of her eye, Mira noticed one figure watching her with particular interest. A tall, gray-skinned man in a black uniform. His sharp eyes were filled with suspicion. Mira's heart sank. She had heard of him. Commander Vekmar, a war hero who hated everything about humanity. The chief spoke again. "Your request will be considered. But know this: trust is not easily given, especially not to those who have broken it before." Mira bowed her head. "I understand." As she turned to leave the podium, a heavy feeling settled in her chest. This was only the beginning. Winning forgiveness would not be easy. It might not even be possible. But Mira knew she had to try. Earth's future depended on it. She walked out of the chamber, her steps firm despite the fear twisting in her stomach. Behind her, the murmurs of doubt followed like ghosts. Mira sat alone in a small waiting room outside the Council chamber. The walls around her hummed softly with energy. A single round window showed the endless black of space, dotted with distant stars. Mira stared at it, gathering her thoughts. Today had been harder than she expected. The looks of mistrust still burned in her mind. She knew that Earth's past sins would not be easily forgotten. A soft chime rang out. The door slid open. A tall assistant with silver skin entered, holding a thin tablet. "The Council will hear arguments tomorrow," the assistant said without emotion. "You are permitted to stay on Station Aegis until a decision is made." Mira nodded. "Thank you." The assistant paused. "Be careful. Not everyone wants your people to return." Before Mira could reply, the assistant turned and left. The door closed behind them with a soft hiss. Mira leaned back in her chair. She knew the truth of those words. Already she had seen the anger in the Council members' eyes. And then there was Vekmar. His gaze had been the coldest of all. Later that evening, Mira attended the Council reception. It was a formal event meant to show unity among the species. But tonight, there was no unity for her. As she walked through the grand hall, she heard the whispers. Humans, bringing war again. Can they be trusted? Too dangerous. Better to leave them to their fate. Mira kept her head high. Even as her stomach twisted, she moved toward a refreshment table, pretending to be interested in the colorful fruits and strange steaming drinks. In truth, she needed a moment to breathe. Suddenly, a shadow fell across her. You speak well for a human. Mira turned. Commander Vec stood before her. Tall and imposing, his black uniform was crisp, the badge on his chest gleaming under the bright lights. His gray eyes locked onto hers with cold interest. Thank you, Mira said carefully. Vec leaned closer. His voice was low, almost a growl. Words won't erase centuries of blood. Mira met his gaze without flinching. Maybe not, but actions can. Vec's lips curled into a slight sneer. We'll see about that. Without another word, he turned and disappeared into the crowd. Mira's hands trembled slightly. She clenched them into fists until they steadied. She had expected resistance, but now she realized it would be much worse than she thought. As the evening dragged on, she noticed that many council members avoided her. A few offered polite nods, but most turned away. Fear and anger still ruled their hearts. When Mira finally returned to her assigned quarters, she sank into the soft bed, exhausted. She stared at the ceiling, replaying the day's events. How could she convince them? How could she undo centuries of pain? Outside her window, Station Aegis floated in silence, a tiny island in the vast dark sea. Mira closed her eyes and whispered into the quiet. We have changed. You just have to see it. But deep down she wondered if they ever would. The next morning, Mira dressed carefully in her ambassador uniform, smoothing the dark fabric over her shoulders. She clipped on the silver badge of Earth, and took one last look in the mirror. Her brown eyes showed the weight she carried, but also the fire that still burned inside her. Today she would speak again, before the Galactic Council. As she walked toward the council chamber, the corridors of Station Aegis buzzed with quiet activity. Ships arrived and left through the docking bays. Diplomats whispered in corners. Guards in silver armor stood at every entrance. Mira's steps were steady. She knew the world was watching her. When she entered the chamber, she noticed the tension right away. Council members were murmuring in urgent voices. Some stood and gestured wildly. Others tapped on glowing tablets. Soren, the council chief, raised a hand for silence. There has been an attack, he announced. A storage bay on the lower decks was destroyed early this morning. Mira's heart jumped. Soren continued. The evidence points to human technology. A low growl spread through the room. Mira stepped forward quickly. With respect, Chief Soren, that is impossible. I have been under watch since my arrival. I brought no weapons, no explosives. Soren narrowed his eyes. Then explain this. A screen flickered to life in the air above them. It showed a small device, something rough and simple. It looked like an old Earth-made explosive. The Earth seal was faintly visible on its side. Mira's stomach twisted. It was clearly meant to frame her people. Before she could speak again, Commander Vec stood. This is no surprise, Vec said loudly. Humans have always hidden knives behind smiles. It would be foolish to believe they have changed. Many council members nodded. Some even glared openly at Mira now. Mira felt heat rise in her face, but she forced herself to stay calm. I request a full investigation, she said firmly. If there is proof, let it be shown openly. If someone is trying to sabotage my mission, we must find the truth. Soren seemed to consider her words. Finally, he nodded. Agreed. An investigation will begin immediately. Until then, Earth's petition is suspended. Mira bowed her head, hiding her anger and fear. Thank you. As she left the chamber, she caught Vec's cold smile. He wanted her to fail. Someone had planted that device, and she knew who stood to gain the most. Later, in her private quarters, Mira sat by the window, staring into the endless black of space. She had only a few days before the council would make their final decision. If she didn't clear Earth's name, everything would be lost. Her mind raced. Who helped Vec? How could she prove Earth's innocence? A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. It was Talon, a young aide from a neutral planet, with soft green skin and kind eyes. I believe you, Talon said simply. And I want to help. Mira smiled, for the first time in hours. Maybe she wasn't alone after all. Mira let Talon into her quarters, closing the door quietly behind them. The walls here were thin. She didn't want anyone hearing what they were about to discuss. Talon sat down across from her, looking serious. I work in the station's technical department, Talon said. I saw the explosion records. The device was not made recently. It was pulled from an old storage file, one that no human had access to. Mira leaned forward. You're sure? Talon nodded. Positive. Someone inside the council planted it. A flicker of hope lit in Mira's chest. If she could prove this, she could save Earth's last chance. Can you get the security footage? Mira asked. Talon hesitated. It's dangerous. If they catch me. Mira reached out, her voice soft but firm. Please. You know what's right. After a moment, Talon nodded. I'll do it. Hours passed. Mira waited in the quiet of her room, nerves burning under her skin. She paced back and forth, her mind racing through every possible outcome. If they were caught, they could both be expelled, or worse. Finally, the door chimed. Talon slipped inside, clutching a small data drive. I got it, he whispered. Instead, Mira took the drive and plugged it into her tablet. A grainy video appeared. It showed a dark hallway in the lower decks. A tall figure moved through the shadows, carrying the explosive device. Mira's breath caught. It was Vecamar. Even though the footage was rough, his sharp features and stiff posture were clear. He placed the device behind a cargo container, then walked away without hesitation. This is it, Mira said. Relief and determination filled her. This is the proof. Talon smiled. Now you just have to survive long enough to show it. Mira copied the video into a secure file and sent a private message to Soren, requesting an emergency meeting of the council. The next day the council chamber was tense. Chief Soren sat at the high seat, looking down at Mira with a careful gaze. You requested a private hearing, Soren said. State your reason. Mira stood tall. I have evidence that the recent attack was staged, not by humans, but by a member of this council. Whispers rippled through the room. Without waiting, Mira projected the security footage into the air. The council members watched in silence as the video played. When Vec's figure appeared on the screen, gasps filled the chamber. Vecmar stood up, his face hard as stone. This proves nothing, he snapped. I was investigating suspicious cargo, but the doubt had already spread. Stadhrenosh council members looked at Vec with suspicion now, not Mira. Soren turned to Vec. His voice was cold. Why did you not report your investigation? Why was the device left to detonate? Stadhrenosh greeter. Vec said nothing. Mira stepped forward, her voice steady. Earth did not attack this station. We came here in peace. Some still fear us, but fear is not proof of guilt. The chamber fell silent. Mira knew she had turned the tide, but she also knew the fight was not over. Earth's future still hung in the balance. Chief Soren spoke at last. We will meet tomorrow to vote on Earth's fate. Mira bowed her head respectfully. As she left the chamber she caught Vec's glare. His eyes promised that he would not forget this. But Mira no longer felt afraid. She had done what she came to do. Now it was up to the council. The next morning, Mira stood outside the council chamber, her heart beating fast. Today was the final hearing. Today she would defend Earth in front of every leader in the galaxy. Talon found her near the entrance. Good luck, he said, giving her a small hopeful smile. Mira smiled back. Thank you, I'll need it. When the grand doors opened, Mira stepped inside. Hundreds of alien leaders sat in their floating seats. Their faces were unreadable, some cold, some curious, all waiting for her. Chief Soren sat at the highest seat, his long hands folded neatly before him. You may speak, he said. Mira walked to the center podium. The bright lights above made her feel small, but she lifted her chin and began. Honorable Council, she said, clearly. Centuries ago humans betrayed your trust. We brought war where there should have been peace. We earned your anger and your fear. She paused, letting her words settle in the room. But we have changed. Earth has changed. The wars that tore us apart are over. We have built new governments focused on peace. We have signed treaties among our nations. We have invested in education, in healing, and in rebuilding our world. Screens lit up around the chamber, showing images Mira had prepared. Peaceful cities rebuilt from ruins, humans planting trees over old battlefields, leaders from different nations signing peace agreements. We are not perfect, Mira said. No world is. But we are no longer the people who brought fire and blood. We ask for a chance to prove it. Mira's voice trembled slightly with emotion, but she kept going. Judge us by what we do now, not by what we did then. Let us stand beside you once more, not as a threat, but as partners in peace. For a long moment there was silence. Then Commander Vekmar stood. You are fools if you trust them, he said, his voice cold and sharp. Humans lie, humans destroy. Give them a second chance, and you will pay the price. Some council members murmured in agreement. Others looked uncertain. Mira faced Vek without fear. Fear has ruled our past for too long, she said. If we let fear guide us now, we doom ourselves to endless darkness. The words hung heavy in the air. Chief Soren stood slowly. It is time, he said. Each council member will cast their vote. The lights dimmed slightly as the council prepared for the vote. Mira could only watch and wait, every muscle in her body tight with hope and fear. One by one the votes were cast. A quiet chime rang out for each decision. Mira couldn't read the results. She could only stand there clutching the silver badge of Earth over her heart. Finally, Soren turned back to face the chamber. The votes have been counted, he said. The final decision will be announced tomorrow. Mira's breath caught. Another night of waiting. As she left the chamber, Vek brushed past her, his voice a whisper of threat. You think you've won. But the galaxy has a long memory. Mira didn't answer him. She simply kept walking, her steps strong and sure. She had spoken the truth. She had given them a reason to hope. Now it was up to the stars. Mira barely slept that night. She sat by the window of her quarters, staring into the dark stretch of space. Her mind raced through every word she had spoken, every reaction she had seen. Fear, anger, hope. They had all been there mixed together like a storm. Talon brought her a cup of warm tea early in the morning. Whatever happens, he said, sitting beside her, you fought for what's right. Mira smiled weakly. I just hope it was enough. A few hours later, the council called for the final meeting. Mira walked the long, shining corridors of Station Aegis one last time. When she reached the council chamber, she paused at the door. She pressed her hand lightly over her silver badge. For Earth, she thought. For the future. The doors opened. Inside, the chamber buzzed with low voices. Council members filled their seats, their faces serious. Chief Soren stood at the center podium. Mira walked forward slowly and stood in the center, the way she had before. But today felt different. Today everything would change. Soren raised his hand, and the room fell silent. The council has voted, he said, his voice clear and heavy. Earth will not be granted full membership at this time. A cold weight dropped in Mira's chest. But Soren continued, Earth will be accepted as a probationary member. The room stirred with surprised murmurs. Soren explained, Earth will work under close supervision for 50 cycles. If peace continues and trust grows, full membership will be considered. Mira blinked, feeling the heavy fear lift from her heart. This was not a full victory, but it was hope. It was a beginning. Commander Vekmar stood sharply. This is a mistake, he shouted. Humans will betray us again. Chief Soren turned a steady gaze to him. If they do, they will answer for it. But we must give them the chance to prove otherwise. Vek scowled, but said no more. Mira stepped forward and bowed deeply to the council. Thank you, she said simply. You will not regret this. There was no applause. No celebration, but Mira felt something even stronger, a silent acceptance. A door had opened. As Mira left the chamber, Talon was waiting for her just outside. "You did it," he said, grinning. Mira smiled back, her eyes shining. "No," she said. "We did it." Together they walked through the bright halls of Station Aegis, their steps light with hope. The path ahead would be long and difficult. Mira knew there would still be fear, still be doubt. But now there was also a chance. And sometimes, a chance was all a world needed. Mira stood once more by the window of her quarters, watching the endless stars. This time, her heart felt lighter. A door had opened, even if it was only a crack. Earth had a future again. She picked up her small communicator and began to record a message for Earth. Her voice was calm and full of feeling. "This is Mira Solon. To the people of Earth, your voice has been heard. We are no longer forgotten. We are no longer alone." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "We have been given a chance, not forgiveness, not yet. But trust must be rebuilt. Step by step, we must show them and ourselves that we can be better, that we are better." She ended the message and sent it. The signal would travel across the stars, reaching Earth in a few hours. Mira walked slowly through the station, breathing in the cool, clean air. Around her, council workers moved about, busy with their tasks. Some glanced at her with curiosity. A few even nodded politely. It was small, but it was a start. Talon joined her as she reached the observation deck, a wide open room with glass walls stretching out into space. Together they stood in silence, looking out at the galaxy. "So, what happens now?" Talon asked after a while. Mira smiled. "Now we prove we deserve the trust they've given us. Every day, every choice. No more lies, no more wars." Talon nodded. "It won't be easy." Mira laughed softly. "Nothing important ever is." Far beyond Station Aegis, Earth spun silently in the darkness. It was battered, scarred by centuries of war, but it was still alive, still fighting. Mira pressed her hand against the glass. She thought of the children growing up on Earth now. Maybe they would live to see a world where peace was not just a dream, but a way of life. Maybe they would walk among the stars, not as outcasts, but as equals. She closed her eyes and made a silent promise. "We will not fail, not this time." Behind her the stars burned quietly, lighting a new path forward. The journey was only beginning.